Thank you, everyone, for your attendance at tonight's meeting. Okay, we've got echo effect. Now we don't. Thank you. I'd like to begin with the hybrid statement. The meeting of the WSESD on August 13, 2024 will come to order. This meeting is a hybrid meeting, which means that some or all of the public body is meeting remotely and some are meeting physically in a previously noticed location where the public may attend to observe, listen, and participate contemporaneously. Please note that while we will strive to provide means for those attending remotely to participate in the public comment period, there may be technical difficulties or reasons that otherwise prevent or interrupt remote public participation. We will do our very best to keep everyone connected at this meeting. If there is a problem, please reach out to someone via email or text. Regardless, the meeting will continue. I'd like to welcome everybody back after a break in July. For some of us, it was more of a break than for others, but nevertheless, it was a step away, and I hope everyone comes back refreshed and rejuvenated. And I think I will say the same thing, basically, at the next meeting when principals are in full attendance. Although they will be very busy by that time. Yes, okay. So, I just want to go through the call of order. If appropriate, agenda items are subject to potential action if they are on the agenda. If any board member feels that an item on the consent agenda warrants discussion, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be set aside for discussion. And we are going to remove the July 9 meeting minutes for discussion. I'm going to separate that out from the consent agenda. So I'm going to say that right now. And if I forget, when we get to consent agenda, someone please speak out. In this way, the consent agenda will be approved in one motion. Okay. And if there are any other items on the consent agenda that need to be adjusted, please speak out, certainly now or before we have that as a motion. Are there any amendments to the agenda as it stands? Okay, well, I have one. Okay, under board matters, letter D as in David, where it says updates from the 6/18/24 admin board retreat. That is a board issue, but it is also an admin issue. And so I would like to move that to the admin report, certainly with board comment at that time. Okay, and that way we consolidate the conversation. So we typically open up with student matters. 5 to 10 minutes for students to speak. And I do not see any students online. I'm going to assume students are enjoying. I see, thank you. I'm going to assume that students are on vacation. How wonderful. Hannah?
I was just going to ask, I know that we had a lot of interest at the end of the school year for board representation from the student body, and at what point are we going to send that out to students?
Well, Tim and I have been talking about that, and we were thinking that we would send it out, reach out to you, and to have you send that out at the point that students have returned, and with a date for interviews to begin maybe the second week in September. That, Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, that is my understanding of our conversation.
Yeah, I think it was September 13th for interviews.
Something like that. But I'd have to look at a calendar and get back to you. Tim will actually get back to you on that, Hannah, okay?
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So student Hannah Parker, thank you. And any other students? Or any students? All right, we'll give it a minute. All right, I am going to shift gears, and let's go to public comment on non-agenda items. This is time for the board to listen and to take notes. It is not a time for the board to respond to comments or to engage in a dialogue with the public. If appropriate, the board and administration will work on next steps. So this is 5 to 10 minutes for public comment on non-agenda items. Okay, I do
It's only
not.
board members, admin, and Carrie Amado.
I'm sorry, say it again?
It's only board members, admin, and Carrie Amado.
Yes, okay, right. Okay. So, I'm gonna move this meeting along. We are up to board matters. Are there any leadership council updates? I know this is early in the year, and we have not been meeting yet.
Did you say leadership council?
I said leadership council update.
Yeah,
Did you want to say something, Tim?
yes,
Okay, Tim.
okay. Richard Levy is the chair of the BAM's Leadership Council. He's very much on top of things, and he passed on a survey that Keith has drafted to encourage parents to get involved in a special subcommittee of the BAM's LC, which is really a good step forward. And it's also set the first meeting of the BAM's LC for September 5th. So BAM's is moving along on its leadership council.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments, updates having to do with leadership council? So, in keeping with what Tim just said, leadership councils will be stepping up and meeting very soon, and we can see that as agendas are posted. You can certainly see it in the minutes of the last meeting that took place for all of the leadership councils. All right. The next item is board subcommittees, and I would like to just take a few minutes. I just want to acknowledge that Becca Shepherd in the central office is putting the orientation manual, the procedural manual online. And as I'm working with her and we're talking about hyperlinks going from that manual to the website, I noticed that there are a number of moments on the website where it really is not up to date. There are mistakes. So I'd like to go through this committee by committee quickly to have a sense of who's on the committee and who is the chair on each committee, so that I can send that information in an organized form to Mohart in order to update the website. So the Personnel Committee, right now the website indicates Ann Beekman, Kim Price, and Colleen Savage. Is that correct?
And Carrie.
And
Carrie Amado.
Carrie Amado, okay. Okay, so Ann, Kim Price, and Colleen Savage, Carrie Amado, anybody else?
And Ann is the chair.
Ann is the chair, thank you very much. All right, Policy and Amendment Committee, as written, Deborah Stanford is the chair, Tim Maciel, and Beekman is the vice chair. Okay, Finance Committee, Sean Murphy, Kim Price, Ruby McAdoo, Eva Nolan. Am I missing anyone?
Sean is the chair.
Sean is the chair, yes. Thank you. All right. Social Justice Committee. And as I'm going through who's on these committees, I'm talking about voting board members. Social justice. I've got Tim Maciel, Sean Murphy, Eva Nolan, and Colleen Savage. Is that correct? Colleen, I know you're online, so if there's a mistake, let me know. Sean?
Yeah, I think I should be removed from the social justice committee because it just seems the time does not work.
Okay, all right. I have just crossed your name out with regret.
Thank you.
The chair of that committee is
Eva.
Eva Nolan. Just waiting for confirmation. Okay. Programmatic and Performance Equity Committee. Ruby McAdoo, Eva Nolan, Brian Reamer, and Kim Price. Is that correct? Voting board members. Okay, great. And the chair is?
Ruby.
I think it's by default me.
Yes,
I'm
by
not sure
default.
that we made a formal decision at our last meeting, but I am definitely putting out agendas and driving the bus for organization.
So you are the point person,
Points.
you are the lead person, otherwise known as
The chair.
the chair. There we go.
Yeah.
And that's for, and if there is rebellion afoot in that committee, take it up in the next committee meeting.
And Eva, you are on that committee? I thought that you had stepped away, so I think that I didn't include you on emails the last round because we did have a meeting, but you are on that committee.
You can remove me from that one.
Well, I will remove you if that's what you want,
Yeah, that's fine.
that you want to be removed.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so Programmatic and Performance Equity Committee, Ruby McAdoo, Brian Reamer, and Kim Price. I'd like to go back to that committee when I finish with this list. So
Yes,
just
yeah.
take me back to that, okay, thank you. Okay, Communications Council. Voting board members, Ruby McAdoo, Sean Murphy, Matt Shiblin. Okay, that's the Communications Council. Am I correct in those three? Anyone else? All right, and the chair of that is?
I think by default it's me. We don't meet very often, and so I keep my eye on the ball and tell people when to meet, so.
Point person, lead person. Thank you very much,
Chairperson.
Ruby. Therefore, chair. Yes. Okay, WSESU voting board members. Okay, we know Carrie Amadon is on it. Ann Beekman, Tim Maciel, Sean Murphy, Deborah Stanford. Okay, that takes care of that grouping. All right, and there's another list I want to go through, and that is school leadership councils. Let's just make sure that's up to date. Academy School, Colleen Savage, is that correct? Okay, I see a nod, thank you. Matt Shibley, Green Street.
Yes.
Yes, okay, Oak Grove, Eva Nolan. Got it, thank you. Dummerston School, myself, thank you. Guilford, Brian. Putney Central, Kim.
No.
No, it's Kim.
Excuse me, I said, okay,
Oh,
let me do this
Okay.
more precisely. Kim Price, Putney Central School.
Yes.
Good, okay. Okay, I'm gonna take charge of this, just a moment. Brattleboro Area Middle School, otherwise known as BAMS, TMAC. If you don't-
I'll go with that.
if you don't like that, it's, nicknames are not to be, I said that to you one day, didn't I? I did,
Maybe.
yes, okay. Otherwise I have Tim Maciel. Okay, Brattleboro Union High School, Ruby.
Yes.
Yeah, I got it. Windham Regional Career Center, Ann Dickman. And Early Education, Ruby.
Yeah, I think it's actually
It's
Eva.
Eva Nolan, got it, thank you, right. Got it. Okay, great, thank you. I just wanted to acknowledge there is so much going on September 5th. I do believe you have a meeting for the,
Programmatic and Performance Equity.
yes, Programmatic and Performance Equity Committee, right, on September 5, and
BAM's Leadership Council.
is there a BAM's Leadership Council on the 5th as well? And because the Programmatic Equity Committee is meeting at 5 o'clock. You've got BAM's meeting in the evening, and then the VSBA is having a regional meeting, Zoom regional meeting, I noticed at 5:30 in the afternoon. So that's a busy set of dates. And I don't know that there's anything to be done about it. I just want to acknowledge September 5.
May I?
Oh, yes, Ruby.
So I was going to give that update. The Programmatic and Performance Equity Committee has met, and the next meeting would be in a cycle of the first Thursday of the month. And I think that's what we're getting caught in,
Uh-huh.
is the first Thursday of the month is a popular one,
Right.
and September is the beginning.
Mhm.
So maybe what I can do, and I'm kind of looking at the Programmatic and Performance Equity folks, is via email consider a shift in that meeting time. We did want to have some consistency, but we haven't started yet,
Right.
so we can pivot, I think.
Yeah,
Because we really do want to, we would like for the community to know about our meetings and participate in the meetings, and we have some focus on kind of equity and access to food in our district is on the agenda, and we're going to be, reaching out to Mark and to other people in central office to come and have conversations. So it's an area where you can have deeper conversations, than in our meetings. So, yeah. So we'll update. We'll send. It'll be posted.
okay, thank you. I was looking at the minutes from the last meeting and noted it that I wanted to just attend.
Yeah.
And then the calendar got really full for September 5. Okay, thank you, Ruby. Anything else on board subcommittees before we move on from that? Okay. The next item on the agenda is an update on a conference that Ruby attended in the late spring in Burlington, having to do with farm to table.
Farm to school. Yes.
Farm to school. Thank you.
I'm going to give this update. I know because I just got a text from her that Susan Grabowski is in Zoom land, so hopefully she can chime in as
great.
well.
Yeah, I'm here, Ruby.
Thank you, Susan. So I serve on a district-wide farm to school committee, and the district that it is wide is the SU. It includes Vernon, but the majority of the participating entities are SD schools. So I am serving in my capacity as kind of a representative from the board. They needed, in order to receive, go for a grant, and we received a grant to attend this, to be part of a program and attend this farm to school conference. Having a board member was one of the desired features. And so I stepped up, and I've been on that committee, and it's something I'm passionate about, and I really like the people that we're working with. This particular conference was at Shelburne Farms. It was a 2-day conference. And not the entire committee couldn't attend, but a very good representative from almost all of the schools was able to attend this conference, and it was really invigorating. And a lot of the focus was on particularly, farm to school programs, but also nutrition, focus on nutrition, focus on some of our schools have a fresh fruit and vegetables program, and discussion about access to food, discussion about food quality and how we're encouraging kind of food education for our kids. All of that was a central focus of the conference. What made our group a little bit distinct is that we, many of the sending committees, from the various schools throughout the state were from a school. They were from one school or, maybe a very small district. But we were one of 2 school districts that sent a committee. The other was, Susan, was it West River?
Yeah, West River, which is actually part of a larger Windham North, not Northeast South. It's part of another school district. So they're a smaller portion of another school district, but we did apply as a district-wide team, and we were limited to bringing 7 people with us. And I think it's important to note that one of the people that we brought with us was the general manager for Fresh Picks for Windham Southeast. Clay Shute was with us on board with the whole program, it was really great to have him with us.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point that Susan raises, because it was the first time that I've ever had a conversation with someone from Fresh Picks, and we had conversations in this board, group about issues at BUHS around food, and so to have someone who was working at a high level, understanding in some ways certain things for the first time, understanding what our commitment was to fresh fruits, vegetables, real foods, whole foods, and what that could look like was really nice. And it's change is sometimes slow, but this felt like this was a really strong movement in the right direction. So yeah, right. Susan, do you have anything that I missed, or?
I just think that we have one of the things that we do at the Farm to School conference is we come together and put together an action plan, and we are working on that action plan. It is really our hope to make the Farm to School program more equitable so that everybody, no matter what school you attend, has access to it. And that's really not the case right now, because some of our schools have very strong Farm to School programs, and some of our schools have not really much going on at all. And we all think it's really important that Farm to School, be an option for everybody, that all students can learn where their food comes from and have an opportunity to get their hands dirty, so to speak, and enjoy a little bit about, learning about fresh food and what Farm to School is all about, and maybe, field trips and things like that. So we had some great garden coordinators from some schools like Guilford, which has a really thriving Farm to School program. So we're really lucky to have some leaders here in the district that are really doing great things. And we're hoping to bring that to all of our schools here in the district.
And so the committee that had representatives that attended this conference, we meet on a monthly basis, I believe. So that there's a continuing commitment throughout this year to come together and work on this action plan, set some goals, and that's being supported by Food Connects, which is a local kind of food advocacy group, and so there's a coordinator who works with us, and she's worked with many schools throughout the district for many years, and so that's been good. So I anticipate that we will continue to work, and if there's something that rises to the level of updating the board, I'll make sure that I create space for that.
Thank you.
Can you make sure the SU board is updated, because food service is our contract?
Yeah. I mean, Susan is an SU employee.
Yeah.
No, and so that's a big part of this is, and that is something, Susan. I'm updating this board because this is my identity, but it may make sense to ask for just to give an update at the SU level.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yes, and even though there are 4 members from this board who are on the SU.
Right.
However, we really want it to be very officially in the SU minutes. And.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes, so I think that's great. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
All right, wow.
Yep.
That was quite a moment. Thank you. Okay. Any questions about that before we move on?
Just comment, nice work. That's great to hear.
It was super fun. I mean, I kind of like conferences anyway, but it was really nice to rub elbows with staff, you know, who are doing this work. And I can say, I believe I was the only board member attending the conference. You know, like
You were.
was-
Yeah, that
it
was
was-
great to have a board member
Yeah.
representative. It was really, we felt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was good, and I think that it really does elevate the conversation in a different way, because it helps if there is some movement or some goal that needs traction. It gives me a platform that's different than, you know, staff members have. So I think that was really valuable.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I just have a quick
Yeah,
question.
sure.
What's the interface between farm to school and fresh picks?
That's an interesting question. Fresh Picks, their the new owner company, Whitson's, has said that they are really committed to more fresh and local foods. They are working on a menu for this fall that's going to include more local foods. I haven't seen that menu yet, but I know that they are working on it. And I've shared, there's a lot of resources out there about farm to school resources that Children Farms has put together, and I've shared that with them. So we're really trying, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be featuring a lot more local foods in the coming year.
And just to kind of, you know, one of the goals that is set out in our action plan is around focusing on the harvest of the month and having that be, which is kind of, I think it's a statewide thing that's like, I don't know, pumpkins
It is,
in October.
it's a statewide thing. So there's a featured food every month. It's not
Right.
always a vegetable.
Yep.
Sometimes it's like whole grains or eggs, but when it's a vegetable, we're really trying to make sure that we're featuring a local
Right.
vegetable, like sweet potatoes, for instance, or squash. And having that highlighted on the menu when it's being used.
Right.
We were doing that for a long time. With all the staffing changes that Fresh Picks has experienced, that kind of fell off the map. And even though I've been pushing, we're really hoping to bring that back, especially this year, because I think that it really does help, you know, featuring, you know, this meal is featuring, you know, Harlow's Farm, you know, squash or whatever you have it is really important. And I think it really helps the students and the parents to know that we are committed to educating their students, not just, you know, in terms of the education that they are getting in the classroom, but as a member of the community.
Okay, thank you. Well, and thank you for keeping us informed throughout the school year. Moving on with the agenda, I think that as we are back in session, it's time for the board to resume approval of all hires, resignations, and retirements. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, discussion? All right, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Any abstentions? It passes, thank you very much. And then it is time for the board to resume approval of all financial issues, budgetary issues. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
There's a second from Kim Price, thank you. Discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand or saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please indicate by raising your hand and saying no. Any abstentions? Okay, that passes. All right, moving down the agenda. I just want to remind everyone about the VSBA conference that's coming up October 24 and 25. Registration opened, I think, as of yesterday. And I see the agenda listed differently depending upon where I track it. The conference begins on Thursday, the 24th, and on the one hand, it begins at 4 or 5 o'clock with student presentations. However, there is a pre-conference workshop at this point entitled Navigating Finance, Policy, and Partnerships for School Board Officers and Superintendents. And that pre-conference runs from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. So the window is open, and then the conference continues on the next day, Friday, all day, with keynote speakers and workshops. So please take a look. And there were, I believe, 5 board members who went last year, as well as the superintendent. And it was a critical conference. It was excellent. It was really excellent. So it takes place at Lake Maury. We would stay over the Thursday night into Friday. I recommend that people sign up for this. Tim?
Mark, a few years ago, did you have students attend with you?
No, I didn't, but a couple of years ago, the focus was on student leadership, and a number of students throughout the state presented. So it was a really inspiring message and conference.
Yeah, I'm ambivalent about this. I'm wondering if it would be a good idea to invite our student reps to the conference. What do you think?
Well, once we have our student reps, I think it'd be a good conversation to have with them and engage their interest in looking at the agenda.
So why don't we continue this conversation outside of the board meeting and see where we go with it. They would have to be excused from classes on Thursday and Friday. Transportation would have to be arranged for them. They would need a chaperone to make this trip. I think about all those issues as a classroom teacher. So there are a number of issues going on here.
Yeah.
So let's have that conversation offline. It would with Mark, with Hannah. Let's also take a look at what the agenda is and see how that fits. So let's keep that for conversation. Ruby?
So I would like to attend this conference. Should I be registering myself or communicating with Mo to do that?
I think if Deborah is able to supply Mo with a complete list of interest, and then we can go from there in terms of signing up and arranging for hotel rooms.
Okay. What we did, yes, I will be very glad to do that. I think what we did last year is we registered individually, and then Mo worked out accommodations for us. But I appreciate what Mark is saying. Can you please contact me immediately if you are interested in attending this? Take a look at your calendars. My work ethic is, I raise the issue, I'd like to get it off the table and get it done. So get in touch with me and let me know. Okay? All right, thank you.
Just another comment about the student leadership from a few years back. The way they had arranged it is they dedicated a day to student leadership. So it was a day trip, it wasn't an overnight. And it was very focused on highlighting the work that high school students have been doing across the state. And it was great for students to make connections with other students in other schools. So depending on the agenda, I think we should start with the agenda and then go from there and thinking about a conversation with our student reps. But it could potentially be a really good opportunity to network and learn from other schools in the state.
Okay, So, Tim, can you take that on as a charge to look at the agenda and let's figure out what we're doing with student attendees. But even with a day trip, it's transportation and a chaperone. Okay, all right. I'm gonna move on. Other announcements? And under board business, is there any other issues? So on the agenda, it says taking a break for 10 minutes. It is 6:37 right now. I'm gonna pause on taking a break and we're gonna continue with business. Administrative report, that's what we're up to.
Okay.
So Mark, thank you.
Great, I brought some hard copies to send around. One is I sent electronically, it's the information from the board retreat around the board calendar. And then I brought a school calendar for the school year, just so you have as a reference. I believe I handed those out in the spring, but as the school year is starting, it'd be good to have. So,
Did you take a calendar?
I'd like to take a moment just to thank the board members for your participation at the June 18th board admin retreat in Vernon. I'd like to thank the board leadership for assistance in planning the agenda. I feel like we were very efficient with our time, and there were certainly a lot of takeaways that we're going to review tonight as a group. As we began planning for that leadership retreat and working closely with Deborah and Ann and Carrie and Kim, a concept came up around presentations and in thinking of a board calendar for next year. And what was shared with us in terms of feedback was it may be more helpful not to do as many presentations in a school year, but to focus on, say, one a month and go deeper with the presentations in terms of highlighting data sources that drive those presentations. So that was on our mind as we went into the leadership retreat and focusing on our CIP and really wanting to get feedback from all of our board members around what do you want to really see and hear about during the 24-25 school year. So at the conclusion of the retreat, throughout the month of July, a group of central office folks, specifically Bryn, Whitney, and myself, really went through all of the data and the feedback from board members. And we tried to categorize all of the feedback into subgroups. So what we have for you tonight in a draft form is essentially September through June. I would suggest that the first meeting of each month is focused on the school reports in terms of those formal school reports that you receive from us in email the Thursday before the board meeting. And then the second meeting of the month would be focused on a deep dive into a fuller presentation. Last year we focused on 10 to 15 minutes for our presentations. I think this year, in terms of a deeper dive, we'd be looking closer to 20 to possibly 30-minute presentations. Then, of course, with time for conversation and questions, maybe a little longer than that as well. What you can see, if you're looking at the handout I just shared, there's another concept built into this calendar, and that is around this idea of having 3 summits throughout the school year. where administration presents information to all board members at the same time. So the Vernon board, the SU board, the SD board, we would likely do that here at BUHS, either in this room or another space. I see those meetings starting at 5 o'clock with a catered meal. So the first hour would be very laid back, opportunities to network across boards, get to know each other, have some side conversations over dinner. And then at 6 o'clock, we would start with a presentation that all board members receive at the same time. And then there would be time for all boards to collaborate, ask questions, maybe break up into smaller groups, and how we receive the data and the presentation. But I think it would be a nice takeaway from the summer retreat, and it kind of continues a collaboration opportunity throughout the school year. And then I believe it would set us up for another really good next step in terms of a summer retreat in June. So we highlighted 3 meetings that we think would be good summit opportunities, September, February, and June. So the September meeting, the second meeting in September, would be focused on the CIP and how we're starting the school year with action steps, an overview of our professional development plan, and then a overview of the VCAP data, which we did receive a couple of weeks ago. And we're still kind of perusing that data and information. But by that time, we will be able to provide a thorough presentation focused on a lot of data. Then February, again, this is kind of midpoint of the school year. We focus on academic data systems and kind of a mid-year report. And you can see the number of data sources that we would highlight in a February meeting. It's the middle of the year. Here's what we've done so far. Here are results. What are we going to do from now to the end of the year to increase those results? And then lastly, the meeting in June would be an end of the year report. Again, what did we do well with our CIP? What did we not do so well? What are the next steps in terms of moving the system forward for the 25-26 school year? And again, I think that would be a nice transition meeting to another retreat in June with all 3 boards. I shared this concept last night at the Vernon school board meeting. Was very well received. And they gave me the go-ahead that they feel like this is a plan that they would back and be interested in engaging in the school year. I know there's a group of board members who will be meeting with myself, Bryn, and Whitney on the 20th to review feedback of this draft and then potentially really clarify a more detailed calendar with policies identified, where the meetings are going to take place. You can see some administrators have been signing up for different presentations. That's very rough. That's not complete yet. But that's the approach to this school year. Open it up to thoughts, questions, comments. I do want to thank Whitney and Bryn. Bryn's here tonight for an incredible amount of work this summer, just compiling. There was a lot of information that was shared on the 18th, and I think we were able to really condense it, identify data sources that will provide the board and community with deep presentations with focused on data.
So as, just before we open this up for a brief discussion, and I think it should be brief because very few administrators are back, I want to emphasize this is a work in progress. This is a draft. And I think that we should consider it from that perspective for the entire year. Active feedback is going to be critical to let this be a dress rehearsal of a new approach that will get better even as we proceed next year. And again, I would like to thank all of the administrators who worked on this, all of the board members, and that means everyone from June 18th, because we all contributed to this moment. Just as a note, I had asked Whitney if we, at the meeting next week, could have hard copies of the data that's online, because some of us do better looking at a document and marking it up. We've had difficulty printing this in larger format, because I know Mo has struggled with this, but it definitely has to be larger, because even with glasses, it's a problem. So let's try and get this.
Yeah, I think after we come to some agreements on the 20th, we can really format it and present it.
But I even took my copy to Staples to see if they could blow it up, and they couldn't.
Yeah.
So, right. That's just a visual thing, but visuals are important.
Mm-hmm.
Let's begin with Kim Price, please.
And Mark, I want to say thank you to all the admins, and I love that we're doing the summits. Not only does it get the boards together, but it's also saving the admin team to do the same report twice.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great way to combine everything.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And this was a concept that was generated at our retreat. This idea was shared by a few different board members.
Yeah,
it's great.
Tim Mazio.
2 points of clarification. Would the 3 summits supplant the SU and regular SD meetings, or would they be in addition to our regular meetings?
My thought is they would supplant, but of course that would be a board decision.
Yeah, we haven't even considered that yet.
Second question is...
Can I just ask,
Yeah.
what are you thinking about that?
I think that the SD board has so much work to do that I would rather, and the SU, I would rather have additional meetings as summits rather than supplanting our regular meetings.
Okay, thank you. All right, and the next point?
The deep dive concept, does that mean that the first meeting of the month you would introduce a topic briefly, and then the second meeting we would have a deeper dive in it?
First meeting of the month, I could give the board a heads up. This is what's happening at the next meeting. You'll have a calendar in place by then, so you'll be able to see ahead. But it would really just be a regular board meeting, and you'll have the board reports prior to that meeting. So
Like, can
we
you
do
give
the
an
presentation the second meeting of the month.
example? Yeah, can you give an example?
Well, can I just ask, instead of going into specifics right now, as we move toward next week, that you jot down these ideas and send them to me, but also go into them next week. Does that make sense,
Yeah.
rather than going into detail right now?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Sean?
Yeah, I was just looking this over, and I looked at it online before. November, December, fiscal responsibility and open budget, but could there be more detail about those, the development of the budget, and, because the budget development will start in October. So,
Can I ask that those both comments that just occurred, Tim and Sean, can you put those in an email, please?
Sure.
and send them to me, copying Kim Price, so that we have it for next week. This is exactly the kind of information that we need for next week, rather than looking for specific answers this evening. Okay, again, it's a work in progress.
And just so the board knows, where it says open in December, the idea is we wouldn't have any presentations in December. It'd be focused time for budget
Yeah,
development
right.
and approval.
Brian,
Yeah, thanks. I just want to say, I think this sounds like a really good idea. I like the idea of dedicating some of our meetings to specific board business and others to something like this that's more informational, that's helpful for us as well as the whole public. And it's nice having it laid out this way. And I'm looking at it online, which I didn't realize before, but at the bottom there are tabs for each of the meetings, which go into further detail. And I can see that there's also room there for that to be fleshed out. So there's a lot of flexibility in this. And I think it might be really worth trying to contain our board business to one meeting and then board work, or I'm not sure what it is, like more of we've been saying we'd like to have conversations or more discussion types of meetings, and it sounds like this would be reserved for the second meeting of the month. And so I'd like to try that if it works out.
so put it in an email to me, please. Would you mind? Really?
Okay.
Exactly what you just said, okay? That's the kind of information that we need.
I don't want to speak for you, Deborah, but that was really your vision that you brought to our meeting that helped develop this. So.
Yeah. Matt,
For whatever it's worth, I think the board administration should consider, although I am a huge fan of food and absolutely encouraged by this, given the financial situation that the whole state is in, would there be utility in us considering a potluck for administration and board members to participate in, rather than it being catered? Just a suggestion for us all to consider. Doesn't mean we have to do all three, but maybe one or two, who knows, something to think about.
Yeah.
thank you.
Should you put that in the email?
I will put that in.
Yes, please, put that in an email. I'm like, add it to my to-do list.
And I would be happy to help organize, if we were so moved to do a potluck, I would take point on organizing the potluck.
All right.
Matt, put that in an email. Okay,
Yes.
front and center, thank you very much. Eva, I saw your hand.
One point of criticism from the public about the presentations is that they would wait like an hour.
I'm sorry, so,
People did complain that it was taking too long because some people would wait, when there's a presentation, they would they would attend that meeting just for that presentation. In regards, like for instance, data, when I would invite some of the folks from the NAACP to watch it. So folks waiting an hour. So if maybe we could have it done right away at the beginning, rather than waiting 45 minutes for the presentation, or having a timestamp where folks know this is happening, and they can have dinner, schedule, things like that.
okay, all right. So you're talking about what the agenda looks like.
Yeah.
So that people have a better sense of how the evening is going to work out. Okay. It's interesting putting together an agenda and something like public comment on non-agenda items or student matters. We moved pretty quickly through that. So suddenly a timestamp would not really work. It's, so, okay, I will do my very best with that. Thank you. Okay. Ruby.
I did send a big long email that listed all of my comments. And I really appreciate this as kind of an innovative way of thinking about the calendar. So thank you for the work that you put into that. I don't think I fully understood. I think my understanding of what the plan was as far as first meeting of the month and second meeting of the month was a little different than what you've laid out. So I'm gonna wrap my head around that and put whatever my comments are in an email to Deborah.
Yep.
But I guess I would like to, if this is an easy question to answer, I wonder, you mentioned that first meeting really would, you know, the admin report would be the board report that we've been getting. I know that you have, in terms of the leadership council's participation in that report, that's something that you, through your leadership council kind of summit or meeting, that will inform that. But I'm not, I guess I wanted to hear, are you thinking, to me, that board report, we have work to do in how we as a board interface with that board report, not just the leadership council part, like the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, our district as a whole and the administrators could, you know, do some better work in terms of how they're filling that out, in terms of making it more useful. So the idea of, like, is the idea that board report document will be elevated or changed in some way, or it's really just we're going to be receiving what we have been getting and like dealing with it differently, or what is that?
That's the idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the other, this is more of a comment, and I think it's more for Deborah. I think that if our first meeting of the month is really a more kind of board business focus, I think it'd be really helpful for us to have as a touchstone a list of what the board business is, like the cycle of what we expect to be doing. And then understanding that as we are innovating, there are curveballs that happen. You know, if there are some times when we have no choice, we have to go into executive session, and it will happen, you know, on a day that we don't want it to, but it will happen. So we just have to kind of accept that those curveballs will come. But I think knowing what we expect board business to be in that first time, so that if all the approval of minutes only happens in the first month, we're not thinking that we're even talking about minutes the second one, things like that. But I'll put that in an email.
Yeah, I think you need to explain that to me a bit more fully, so that I fully grasp what you're saying in terms of the cycle of board business. So let's have that conversation. Okay, thank you. Yeah. Tim?
Okay, just one more detail. I'll put it in the email. But I'd suggest that we think about a year calendar. I know July is mostly vacations, but we do business obviously in August. And one of the policies that's so important is the continuous improvement plan policy, which calls specifically for the board to vote on the goals before the academic year starts. So I think the next iteration of the calendar should take into account the timeline for getting the goals approved, discussed, reviewed by the board in time for the board to vote on them before the academic year, as the policy states.
Sure.
Okay. I think that makes sense.
Yep.
That we would, you know, sort of shift gears a bit, so that we're having this discussion earlier.
And I think the summits are an opportunity to really engage with the boards around what that next CIP will look like based on the data presentations, especially the one in February. We'll have a real good sense of mid-year where we are, and then certainly in June, the culmination of the school year.
So I, no doubt, Kim Price and I will receive a flurry of emails. And I think it's very important to have this in writing from your perspective. We certainly will see it in the minutes, but from your perspective to have it in writing. I think that's critical and will be very useful at next week's meeting.
Sounds great.
Thank you very much.
Just a couple
Are there
other,
any other
just a
issues?
few
Yes.
other things.
Mhm. Yes.
Next week, we have some trainings in place for new employees and establishing mentors for employees, new employees. Our in-service schedule starts on August 26th and the 27th. Those are in-service days. First day of school for students is the 28th. So these last few weeks leading up to that first day of the school year is actually very, very busy. There's a lot going on at central office, curriculum office, special ed office, individual schools, a lot of prep going into a smooth start to the school year. So it's exciting. This time of the school years, of the summer is very exciting. Just thinking ahead to the possibilities. That's it.
So, I don't know how you want to deal with this, Mark. We received an email that I received it, today's what, Tuesday? I received it Monday afternoon, and I sent it this morning, having to do with a new hire.
Okay.
That, it's, okay, and I believe it's someone related to the WRCC.
Mm-hmm.
So is that something that needs to be addressed this evening?
It's driving instruction.
It's the driving instructor, and
Mechanic.
No, he's the automotive.
automotive. I'm so sorry, Nancy. Thank you very much. Oh, you are there, Nancy. Thank you. Automotive instructor. So it had to do with cars.
Yes.
Okay, good. There we go. Thank you very much.
And Nancy is here tonight to speak to that.
Okay, Nancy, do you want to? We received it late, and I can appreciate all the pitfalls of this season. And making sure that you have all your necessary personnel in place. So do you want to?
Sure.
speak to the issue?
I literally emailed Michael as soon as I had a candidate who, well, let me just tell you, we posted the position in June. We did not have a candidate. I was in a panic because I have 17 students who are really counting on having automotive class this year. So I met with Christy Beatty at the BDCC, and we put together a social media post, basically, that advertised the position on social media and said, for a full job description, go to School Spring. And literally every employee, I think pretty much every employee of WRCC posted it on their social media, as well as BDCC posting it, and numerous people in their group. And so we finally had one candidate. And we are very lucky that he is an outstanding mechanic. He was actually, I believe, third in the world, working on Audi cars at a world competition in Munich, Germany a few years ago. And he has racing experience, and he is going to attract kids like crazy to automotive. He will need to go through the teacher prep program, which is a 4-year journey, but we will support him in doing that. He will participate in our diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging professional development, which is, again, our professional development focus for at least the next 2 years, until it becomes completely embedded in our school's culture, without question. And then it won't be our only focus, but right now it is pretty much our only focus. So anyway, I am asking the board to approve Mark as our auto instructor moving forward.
So move.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Can we just identify the individual by full name? I think that might be helpful.
Sure, and I am going to massacre his last name, Deborah, so I'm gonna ask for everybody's patience with that. His last name is Palolilis. Palolilis. I think it's Greek in nature, and I am honestly to say that I'm honestly going to say, Deborah, that if somebody else can do it better, please do so.
There was a motion that was moved to for Mark Palolis, and I feel as if it's a game of telephone because I'm hearing it through my computer at this point. So please, we welcome you, and please forgive us for perhaps not pronouncing your name correctly. Next time round, we definitely will know better. So, and it was seconded, the motion was Sean, thank you very much, and it was seconded by Ann. Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please indicate by raising your hand and saying no. Any abstentions? Okay, thank you very much. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you very much.
You are very welcome, Nancy. I appreciate the immediacy of this issue.
Well, I appreciate you acting on it.
As long as we have Nancy on the line, can I ask a couple of questions?
Sure, Tim.
Nancy, you mentioned CT prep, is that correct?
Yes.
What is that?
So most CTE teachers come to the world of Vermont CTE without teacher preparation because they come out of industry, like Mark is. And so we, through Perkins funding and the university, the Vermont State University, we have a teacher prep program that we have set up that is basically a 4-year, they take 2 to 3 courses a year most years, and they complete credits in order to be licensed as Vermont state teachers in CTE.
Who provides the courses?
Vermont State University.
Oh, okay. That's comforting to know because sometimes we get practitioners, as you said, with absolutely no teaching experience whatsoever. And can you say more about the PD focus?
Oh, sure. So every year or every 2 years, I have to do a comprehensive local needs assessment. And as part of that, I have to identify what our staff needs most in terms of professional development. And when we look at our numbers, our numbers are based on the county numbers because we serve the entire county, Windham County, for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And our numbers are, in my opinion, our numbers are significantly lower in terms of diversity than Brattleboro Union High School. Now, I will say that Twin Valley, Leland and Gray, and Bellows Falls, our numbers look pretty good, but in Brattleboro, we don't look good. And I'm not willing to put up with that. So we have spent the last 2 years focused on, and the other piece of diversity that we have missed out on in the past is having non-traditional students in some of our programs. So for instance, girls in manufacturing or electrical or automotive, and boys in health careers, or males, people identifying as males in health careers and early childhood education. We've made progress over the last 2 years in all of those categories, but that is not to say our work is done. And we all know that one and done professional development is kind of like giving up French fries for a day when you're on a diet. You got to give them up for more than a day. So I want to make sure that the work we're doing right now becomes embedded in our culture and it stays on our radar. So that is what we are working on. And we will spend at least 2 more years focused on that. And then we may diversify some, but we will not go that far from our target, at least at first, because we'll want to make sure that we sustain the work we've done. And it's also a focus of the teacher prep program.
Just one more quick question, if I may. A course like automotive, is the syllabus already very fully developed?
The syllabus and the career pathway are pretty developed. So are developed currently. And so what will happen is our new teacher will start out using that syllabus. And then he will, as he gains experience, he will make changes to make that reflect his classroom vision. One of the things that he will add, I know, going in is he's our first instructor who has electric vehicle experience. So he will be bringing that on board for us, which is great. And we, through a grant, have a kit car that students will put together, a drivable kit car, that is an EV vehicle. And he's very excited to work with that and to help students put it together and learn the technology.
Okay. I just want to congratulate you on finding a person like this, an automotive expert. In today's Reformer, there's an article about JB automotive guy going out of business.
Yeah.
And he talks about the shortage of auto mechanics, how difficult it is. He's closing his business because he can't find help.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you found somebody.
I was really worried. The other thing I should let the board know is I have written a grant for CTE in general in Vermont. So for all 17 centers, including WRCC, for congressionally directed funds. And we have moved into, I don't know if it's considered tier 2 of the qualifying rounds or tier 3 of the qualifying rounds, but we are hoping to achieve the gold medal round in winning a $5 million grant for CTE in Vermont. So I think that will bring great things to the state.
Great.
Thank you very much. Kirby.
Can you I think I know what CTE means, but I'd really love to not have acronyms be the only time we use it. Could you tell us what CTE means?
Career and technical education.
Good. Thank you. All right, now a reminder about acronyms.
Yes, thank you.
And we've certainly heard that from the various workshops that we've attended. Stay away from acronyms.
Oh, yes.
Yes, and that's not on you, Nancy, that's on all of us.
Oh, no.
It's a reminder. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Nancy, thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Okay, so, wow. Looking down the agenda, we're up to the consent agenda. And I have pulled July 9th out of the consent agenda. So maybe we should deal with July 9 first. My understanding is that when I look at the minutes of June 25th, which is our prior board meeting, it presented that the July 9 meeting would be the only regularly planned board meeting in July. It was not a regular board meeting. It was a special meeting with public comment, of course, which must be included all the time, but it was an executive session. So I'd like to make that distinction for July 9. Ruby.
I feel like I mean, I understand the desire to do that, but at the close of that meeting,
Which meeting?
what's the date of this, the minutes that we're talking about?
Oh, June 25.
So that's what we're talking about. Or we're talking about the June 25th minutes?
No, we're talking about the July 9 minutes. We're talking about July 9,
Okay.
which was referenced in the June 25 minutes as being a regular board meeting.
Right, so what are you proposing a change to something?
I'm proposing a change to the designation of the July 9 meeting. This was an email that I received from a board member, and I cannot remember who sent me that email, so I'm just being very precise about this.
So I guess the question I have in terms of that designation, my assumption is you're talking about when it was referenced in the June 20 whatever.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Because
I see. I see.
Ultimately at the end of the June 25th meeting, my understanding was, I put when the next regular meeting was, but then things shifted and changed.
Right.
So then our whole July schedule was different than what we anticipated. So I don't feel like there's a need to change because that was a moment in time, but I could see reflecting in this meeting back just a comment of that, in July, we did not hold a regular meeting. We only had 2 executive sessions and be done with it. So I don't feel like that's a change in the past. It's a change of now.
Okay, so it doesn't, so in effect what you're saying is the consent agenda stays as it is, and we've made a comment about the designation of the July 9 meeting.
That's what I would propose.
Guys, thank you, that takes care of that. So now we are, thank you.
And we're putting these minutes back in the consent agenda.
Good. So now we are up to the consent agenda. And is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? And that includes the minutes for 3 meetings. June 25, July 9, and July 22. And then as well as payrolls and warrants. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you very much, Matt Shibley.
Second.
Thank you, Ruby McAdoo. Is there discussion? All right, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please indicate by saying no. Any abstentions? Thank you very much. All right, that takes care of the consent agenda. So, we are moving on to new business. Any topics for new business?
Would you like to take a break now, or?
Nobody has topics.
Nobody has topics. So, nobody has topics?
Or if nobody has topics.
If nobody has topics, maybe we could just continue.
Okay, sure.
Because we are
Are we
now,
almost
Yes.
we are now moving on. I'm about to start coughing in anticipation of this.
That's third base.
We are now moving on to unfinished business. And the Policy and Amendment Committee presents D4, Education, Supervision and Evaluation. Educator, supervision and evaluation, not education, sorry. It should read educator, supervision and evaluation. This is being presented for a second reading. And a reminder to everyone, look at the policy D4 as listed on the agenda. You will see all the changes. The policy that's listed on the website is the policy that would be overridden by this eventually. If there are any concerns about it, any questions, please send an email to any one of us on the policy committee. So that's for a second reading. Now, the Policy and Amendment Committee presents the following for readoption. There are 5 policies on this list. How would you like me to do it? Do I do it policy by policy, a motion, or can I do it as one motion for all 5 policies? It's up to the board. Sean, I saw your finger go up. One motion for all 5 policies. Okay, thank you. All right, so for readoption, the following. E14, environmental awareness and responsibility. E4, searches, seizures, and interrogation of students by school personnel.
E4, F4 for the board.
I meant F4. Thank you. I'm going to start again. E14, environmental awareness and responsibility. F4, searches, seizures, and interrogation of students by school personnel. F5, searches, seizures, and interrogation of students by law enforcement personnel or other non-school personnel. F41, policy on section 504 and ADA grievance protocol for students and staff. G13, acceptable use of electronic resources and the internet. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Discussion. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please indicate by raising your hand and saying no. Any abstentions? All right, these 5 policies as read have now passed. Thank you very much. Is there any other topic for unfinished business? We are not ending with an executive session this evening. Therefore,
Madam Chair, there being no further business before this board, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please indicate by raising your hand and saying no. Any abstentions? We are adjourned. It is 7:23 this evening.
Well done.